Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Salatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala ahli wa sahbihi ajma'in. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and greetings. My name is AHMAD MUKHLIS YAHYA, and today I'll be presenting the viewpoints of Islamic, Western and Eastern philosophers on knowledge and education. This is for my course that I'm studying, which is EDUP3013, Philosophy and Education in Malaysia. And my lecturer is Dr. Kamarudin bin Abu Hassan. So let's move on then. What are the Islamic philosophers' views on education? Islam's philosophies on education are based on 4 elements. This is based on Turki Rahib in 1984. The elements are a strong belief towards Allah and His prophets, angels, heaven, hell, and the day of resurrection. Strong moralities, down to earth and noble, knowledgeable in every kind of aspects, and pious deeds on this realm and hereafter. Yusuf al-Qaradawi in Zawawi Haji Ahmad defined education as whole, ranging from mind, heart, spirit, physical, moral, and behavior. So there's like 6 of them. Muhammad Kamal Hassan in 1989 stated that Islam's philosophies on educations are based on the following concepts. The first one is lifelong education, and then comprehensive developments in terms of body, emotion, spirit, and intellect, functioning as Allah's servant and caliph of the earth. Caliph means to be a leader or to be the king of the world. Harmonizing nature and surroundings while compromising faith, intellect, and pious deeds. Al-Falah, which means to succeed in this life and hereafter. Now let's move on to the Western philosophers' views on education. The Western philosophers' views on education are divided by 2, which is traditional and modern. The traditional is called Perennialism and Essentialism, while the modern are called progressivism, constructivism, and existentialism. So let's see, what does the Western traditional philosophies mean? Perennialism means to, it says that the sole purpose of education is to find the truth and proceed to understand said truth. The truth can be obtained from past civilizations. This is based by R.M. Hutchins, Mortimer G. Alder, and Jacques Martin. While essentialism says that education is implemented through basic knowledge, important skills, and attitudes. James B. Conant and Jaime George Rickover believed that a good member of society can be formed if they were educated in such a way. Now let's look at the Western modern philosophies. Progressivism says that education is a process of creating an individual based on their interactions with the surroundings. Therefore, it must be natural and based solely on the students. The philosophers that use this philosophy is Charles Peirce, Charles Darwin, William James, William Kilpatrick, and John Dewey. Constructivism says that students must be exposed to the current social issues in society. For that matter, they will be educated and trained with problem-solving knowledge and skills. These philosophers are John Dewey, George S. Counts, and Harold Urach. While existentialism, the last one, says that knowledge and education are based on the individual's experiences with their surroundings. Therefore, it is considered relative and changes from time to time according to circumstances. On Soren Kierkegaard, Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche, and Martin Buber. And then let's move on to Eastern philosophers' views on education. Confucius, or Confucius, emphasizes on moral education. For examples, respect towards parents, respect towards elders, diligence, loyalty, thrifty, tolerance, wisdom, and courage. While R. Tagore, or Rabindranath Tagore, views on education are as the following. The concept of it is a process of preparing an individual for their future. The purpose of it is to create a comprehensive individual through interactions and integrations from the surroundings. And he believed that teachers play an important role in education. They act as facilitator or pioneer of discussion. They can also be the generator of ideas among students. Now I'll present to you the sources of knowledge and goals of Islamic education, the West and the East. The sources of knowledge, the first one is perception. The perception here means our five senses. For example, eye for seeing, the sense of touch, the sense of taste. Here, what we perceive with what we perceive with our senses to our surroundings become our sources of knowledge. Like what we smell, what we hear, what we taste, and what we touch, they become these perceptions become our source of knowledge. Next one is argument. People have different opinions, and they use like facts and supporting details to support their argument. So we can like use that kind of argument to evaluate the facts and become another source of knowledge. Next one is introspection. Introspection here means to look inside yourself, means that to learn by ourselves. For example, we mature, right? We learn from our mistakes. We learned before that it's wrong to eat sands, but now, as we grow up, we now know that it is wrong to eat sands because they're not edible. For example, the next one is memory. As we know, if we learn something, the knowledge will get stored in our memory, so it can be used as a source of knowledge. If you remember something and it is like facts, or like it is can be trusted, then it can be a good source of knowledge. The last one is testimony. For example, a testimony from scholars or knowledgeable person, a testimony from the king or the scholars, the royalty. Their testimony becomes the source of knowledge for the people, for example. So let's look at the goals of Islamic education. The goals of Islamic education is to form a generation of Muslims that are intellectual and pious. They are also aware of their positions on this world as God's servants and responsible leader, also known as Caliph, that are excellent in every aspect. They are able to harmonize and stabilize in between this realm and hereafter so that they may succeed in both realms. To put in more details, in Islamic education, we have two types of education. For example, the standard education, the academic education, and the religious education, the religion education. Examples of standard education would be science, math, language, something like that. And while the religion education would be fiqh, tasawwuf, and usuluddin, something that relates to the religion. For example, how we pray, or like the dua, or like certain acts of faith that we do on certain days. For example, in Ramadan, it is good to read the Al-Quran, the Hadith, the Al-Quran, things that we learn to increase that relates to our spiritual self. Those are the religion education. Well, the standard education, as you know, are the science, math, history, something like that. So the goals of Islamic education here is to create a generation that are able to harmonize and stabilize, like they're knowledgeable in both types of education. They are religious and they're also knowledgeable, intellectual, so that they may be able to success in this life, in this realm, and their hereafter, after they die, because that's what the religious education is for, to prepare themselves for their hereafter. So let's look at the goals of Western educations. Perennialism believes that the goal of education is to make students understand the Western civilization. It means that they prioritize their culture, the Western culture. And essentialism believes that knowledge should be passed down to students in a systematic way, while progressivism believes that education must be focused on the kids themselves as a whole, not on the teachers, nor the contents. Excuse me. Now let's look at the goals of Eastern education. Eastern education emphasizes on humans' growth and the transformation of children's maturity to responsible adults. So that's the end of it. I have a question. This is a question for you. A variety of philosophies on education exist nowadays. In your opinion, do you think Malaysia's philosophies on education are influenced by any of them? State which philosophies and why. Okay, that's all for me. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you for listening.